Hello. Our next poet is Amanda Waters. She was born and raised in Michigan. She received a bachelor's degree from Central Michigan University. She currently lives in Charlotte, North Carolina, and commutes to New York weekly for classes. And I'm really jealous of her, first off because I'm from the South. And she's basically created an artist colony away from Sarah Lawrence, and I'm really jealous of that. She stays with her dog Lennon and her boyfriend Andrew. Amanda and I never took a class together our first year, so I was really upset with her when I found out that she was moving. Yeah, especially to the South, like I said, because that's my home. I was impressed with the few poems that I had heard before, so it was exciting to read her submission, knowing the same community as before didn't surround her anymore. I think the South has been good to her. Her poetry is becoming eerie and mysterious. A few lines that I enjoy from one of her poems is, plant milkweed between your teeth, let the wild flowers sprout from your mouth, you will attract monarchs. Please help me in welcoming Amanda Waters back to New York and to the Poetry Festival stage.
Hi, thanks for having me this weekend. It's been fun. It's been really fun. Kind of ready to go home though. This first poem is called Carnival. Once a year, in a town outside Calgary, a carnival occurs backward. Getting cleaner, a parking lot unlitters. Popcorn lifts off the pavement. Ticket stubs uncrinkle. Where there was nothing but sticky parking lot lines, egg beater arms scissor around each other, and Ferris wheels carry children and lovers counterclockwise. Out of sugar and saliva, girls produce cotton candy onto sticks. Balloons unpop, bob on strings, then deflate back to empty sacks. Patrons take tokens after each ride. Squeaky teens hand over stuffed bears in bow ties so their boyfriends can catch baseballs pitched from bottle pyramids. And as the moon goes down and sunset approaches, children pile back into minivans. Motion sickness crawls down throats, back to bellies. Headaches evaporate. Eagerness spreads from faces. This one's called How to Be More Interesting. Scrawl in toadflax alphabet. Make your A's sundials with a tail. Change the pronunciation of author to auteur. Balance apostrophes between fingers. Or change the shape of your neighbor's knees. Swim with your mother's ghost. Marry the public library. Cure bellyaches with tin pennies. Live in the colon of an arthropod. Drink wine from an eaves trough. Eat grouse off your daughter's back. Learn how to breathe through your tear ducts. This one is called Newton. Isaac Newton wore a dress made of twigs and barberry to his high school reunion. He said it made him feel like the positive integer in his binomial theorem. He didn't ask anyone to dance. He sat straight in a folding chair, sipping butter punch. He complained of high-riding pantyhose. Around midnight, he was approached by an old schoolyard tyrant named Isaac. Isaac, said Newton. Newton, said Isaac. They arm wrestled, held their breath, and shot arrows through apples on former classmates' heads. After a few hours, the competition ended with Isaac in the dress and Newton painting pictures of gravity on the pharmacy door. No one called anyone sir, and neither man won. After, they dined at Mabel's Munchie Heaven. Isaac Newton ordered flapjacks and gravy. Isaac, said Newton, all those years, why did you torture me? He cut his food into parallelograms and dipped them into his coffee. Newton, said Isaac, I was a child. They talked of carriage rides and wives, mathematics and onomatopoeia. They sipped brandy and milk from the same glass and exchanged email addresses. Isaac Newton walked home barefoot, a barely sane man with a slight hangover, 5 fewer dollars and 10 inches taller. I always want to say something between these poems. I mean, I guess if you want to take something away from these, they're 100% true. I didn't make any of this up. These are all real stories. This one's called After the Accident. Your teeth are my favorite bones. I fished them out of the Detroit River. I use them as light bulbs to read at night. Sometimes they are chalk nubs, and I leave messages for myself. Get milk. At weddings, I string them along my neck. I replaced the M and L on my typewriter with your molars. You don't talk much anymore. You're much more likable sitting over there, gumming at your pork chop, suffering over my name. This is called Edmund Fitzgerald, 1975. 4 days before the Edmund Fitzgerald sank, my grandfather was losing his virginity in a parked car at the boardwalk. He told me he saw it pass on its last trip through the St. Clair River, so he must have looked up from the steering wheel or thighs of a blonde 19-year-old in a ripped Bowie t-shirt to wave goodbye to the soon-dead 29, Island Girl crackling through the speakers. Days later, on its way back to Detroit, the freighter would run into high winds, rogue waves, and only minutes after the captain's last transmission, we're holding our own, drown in Lake Superior. At night, her wolves will come. 1. Behind the backyard pit fire, behind the thick-stranded cattails and weeds too tall, a tree west of the shed grows pheasants. Every spring, an eruption of buds, bald little tree hooks. By June, it sprouted half the bird, 15 or 20 beaks sorry to the sky. 2. She spends her summers collecting foul feathers in potato sacks, names the tight-eyed bodies, all mallow. In the soupy late October, trees begin to curl, molt, and turn away, but not that one. By November, the mallows wail and shoulder against the wind. 3. And she ascends the laddering limbs, plucking pheasants from treetops. Their ankles tied in yellow yarn, they flap against her back. She climbs down, careful not to step on them, unknotted and resting on the ground. Some attempt to fly, others to walk away, but all fall quietly to their sides. And this is my last one. It's called Cassandra. They keep her in the basement below my basement, 3 stories down. Her crimes were wrapping her infant son in tinfoil, turning the piano inside out, and masquerading as the mayor. She's not dangerous. Once, she had the idea to escape, the desire of air. For years, she used soup spoons to carve the shape of her body deep into the clay walls. Every time it rains, the walls push more of the engraving back to her. I send water and raw potatoes down the dumbwaiter. I imagine she wanders around the room, wearing grooves into the ground, fingering the body marks in the walls. Dangling around her ankles is hair. Sometimes she trips on it, and you can feel the hardwood floors shake with her collision. Once, I overheard her through the floorboards, telling the walls my future. Thank you.